Okay, what's up? What's going on, YouTube? I'm Mr. Mass Man on YouTube. I am the Mass Man. I am here for another movie review. I'm working on my intros. I'm trying to produce, not really produce, because I'm still only going to do this shit in one take. I don't give a fuck how far I get in this shit. I'm doing one take because I'm not an actor. I don't act. I don't read lines. I don't remember shit like that. I just get on this shit and speak. But I want to structure my shit right so that I get all the information that I want to get out in a concise manner, um, and do it properly. I just wrote little notes to myself to um, to see how I can get all of this information across so that I won't make such painfully long videos of me explaining myself. I can get this shit condensed. But the intro, I am the Masked Man. I do movie reviews and I talk about the media in general and anything that I'm interested in from the perspective of what did I write down? Of the common moviegoer. Average, common, whichever adjective you prefer. I'm not a film student. I'm not a professional media critic. No disrespect to them. I just don't have that experience, but I do feel that what I provide is valuable and is missing because they say a lot of things that I feel that people would love are bad, and that causes people to not love them as to go in with the mindset that something that they actually like is bad. And I think that they give a lot of credit to stuff as being good, but people don't really enjoy it. One day I'm gonna rewatch The Lord of the Rings and tell you what I think of The Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna rewatch it. I haven't seen it in a long time, so it's not really fresh on my mind. So maybe my initial opinion of it is wrong, but I will go back and rewatch it and give it another chance. But right now, what I'm talking about is The Theory of Everything, starring Eddie Redmayne as Stephen Hawkins. Um, Before I get started, I spoil movies. I tell you what's gonna happen in the movies. I do not. I spoil movies, but I give you an out. Should you go see this movie before I spoil it? Yes or no? No, you should not. No, don't worry about it. Just let me spoil the movie. Just let me spoil the movie. This movie is what I would guess is um some sort of account of Stephen Hawking's life. Is some sort of an account of his life. And um a couple of things in this movie, they really made a big to do about his atheism in the movie, which is fine. But I I'm not quite sure that that's accurate because I remember an article on yahoo.com from like back when I was in college. Like I'm 26 now. I graduated when I was 21, so maybe 6 years ago. There was an article that made a big to do about Stephen Hawking's retracting a statement that he made that the universe was created by God, or that a God was needed to begin the universe. And he said something to the effect that universes always come out of nothing, or that universes start out of nothing. And they made a big deal out of him saying this because he was going back on something that he had said earlier. So I don't know if this Stephen Hawking's, as a staunch, hardcore atheist back in the days when he could talk, I'm not sure if that's accurate, or if that's something that they was doing for a story. I may be mixed up. I may not have my facts right. It was a biopic. They take liberties. I'm not an expert on Stephen Hawking's life or his work or what he stood for, so I cannot say about that. But I do know that that contradicts something that I've heard. But that doesn't have anything to do with whether the movie was good or not. The movie, the movie had Stephen Hawking's met a girl, and in his awkward, weird ass way, he seduced her, and they instantly fell for each other, or she instantly fell for him. And then he's walking from class one day and he collapses, and he finds out that he has the disease that has debilitated him to this day. And the girl in the movie, whose name I cannot recall, movie I saw a while ago, whose name I cannot recall, fell for him. He became as distraught and as upset as anybody would be if they found out that they had 2 years to live. They told Eddie Redmayne's character, Stephen Hawking, that he had 2 years to live with this disease, and he wanted to suffer alone. But this wife of his decided that this woman of his decided that she wanted to stick it out with him and be there for him, and care for him through whatever. She loved him, and love endures all. Okay. This movie, okay, so after they get married, and I'm not clear about if they had a marriage scene, this chick, I don't want to break this movie down. I don't want to break this movie down as much as I want to say everything that's wrong with this movie. This movie was what I would call Oscar-bation. I would call this movie The Theory of Everything is an Oscar-bation movie. It's a movie that people make saying, I want to make a movie that I'm going to get an Oscar for. I'm going to make the kind of movie that people get Oscars for. That's what I intend to do here. And that's what this felt like a movie that was thirsty as hell to get a fucking Oscar. It was pretentious as a motherfucker, and it wasn't about nothing. The movie wasn't about nothing. It was not about anything. It was not about nothing. Wasn't about anything. It wasn't about his work. They didn't go into his work. They didn't. Okay. This woman had kids. She had several kids. I think she had 3 kids. But you never see this woman pregnant in this movie. You never see this woman pregnant. She's not pregnant for 1 minute in any scene anywhere in the movie. It's just one scene she's talking to Steven. The next scene there's a baby there. Just a baby appears out of nowhere. It's like if you saw the movie Boyhood and how they cut to scenes and you didn't know whether you was like in the future or what was going on, that you didn't, it just sort of switched up on you and you felt a little disoriented because they didn't really explain like 2 years later, 6 months. They just sort of threw you in because it's sort of an experimental thing. It felt like that whenever this bitch had a baby. This bitch just had babies out of nowhere, out of nothing. It's just 1 minute she's talking, the next scene there's a fucking baby there. And it was annoying as hell. Other thing is his declining in mobility and his decline in health. They didn't really go into the nuts and bolts of that. It's like she pretty much took care of him. Okay, he's disabled. They didn't show her putting him on the toilet. They didn't show her putting him in the bed, getting him in and out of his clothes. They didn't show any of the real struggle that you would have with somebody who was disabled. They didn't show him being frustrated and him being upset and him breaking down and him having emotional moments. He was just sort of cool with it, and she was just sort of cool with it up to a point. Up to a point. And they really made this woman into like some kind of a super saint. They made this woman. I don't know the story. I don't know this woman. I don't know this woman from a can of paint. The real woman that Stephen Hawking's wife is based on. She may be every bit as good as the movie made her out to be. But like, even when she broke up with Stephen Hawking and left him for another man that she met at a church, the way that the movie did it was her eventually leaving him was even kind of his fault. Like, there was another woman who was helping him kind of speak or whatever, communicate in some fashion, and he wanted that woman to go with him to his lecture instead of his wife, and they did it in such a way that it didn't make her look bad. It didn't make her look bad. Like, she struggled with trying to help him by herself for many years, helping him, a disabled person, while also raising children and also having a friendship with a dude, but she never ever cheated, and all of those kids are his legitimately. And it was like, I'm not saying this woman wasn't good. I'm not saying this woman didn't cheat on him, but I'm saying that this sort of role that the wife of Stephen Hawkins played, the woman who played the wife, that's the sort of role that people get Oscars for. Not necessarily somebody who's playing a disabled person, but somebody who has to take care of a disabled person is, just an opportunity to really shine and really show the variations of human emotions. And that bitch just didn't do that shit. She was just okay and moderately disturbed. In her moderate discomfort, her moderate annoyance was only to facilitate the introduction of the man that she would eventually leave her husband for to come help out in taking care of Stephen Hawkins. Because she needed help, reasonably so, since she's taking care of 3 children and a disabled husband. It would make sense that she would need help and that they can't afford help because they don't have he wasn't the world renowned scientist that he is now back when they were married with children. So shit happened in this movie, but the shit is irrelevant because, like I said, they don't focus on his work. They don't focus on the relationship between the husband and wife. On they don't focus on his disease. They don't focus on too much of anything. I found this movie. I found this movie to be a waste of time. I found this movie to be a waste of time. The only reason that I think that anybody would watch this movie, the only reason I think anybody would watch this movie is if they wanted to know something about Stephen Hawkins. If you want to know something about Stephen Hawkins, find out another way. Just find out another way. Just do something else. Go another direction. Just something else. Just read a book about Stephen Hawkins. Go to Google. Look up Stephen Hawkins. Read the many books that he wrote himself. Read biographies about him. Do whatever you got to do to figure out about the man. But as far as a movie goes, do not watch this movie. Don't watch it. Don't watch this movie. This movie did not need to be made. This movie is not a good movie. It's not an enjoyable movie. It's not a fun movie. It doesn't have anything going for it. I can't understand why this movie got so much praise. I don't understand it. I mean, the acting, I'm not an expert on what technically is good or bad acting. Like, I guess they delivered their lines in a believable way. But the way that the story was set up, it's like, I feel like she would have been much more angry, much more agitated, much more frustrated, much more a lot of shit that anybody would rightfully feel if they had to take care of multiple children and a husband that is disabled, and not only disabled, but is one of the foremost leaders in their field of study, which will require a lot of time. So not only is he disabled, he's not even spending a lot of time with you. So I would imagine that there would be way more frustration than this chick showed any indication of. So I'm like, man, fuck this movie for this bullshit. Like, there's no reason to see this movie. Like, make a documentary about Stephen Hawkins. If there's they need to make a documentary about Stephen Hawkins. This movie was a bunch of people, was either a studio or an actor or whatever forces goes into getting a movie produced. It was somebody fishing. It was somebody fishing for an Oscar. It was somebody fishing for awards, fishing for appreciation, fishing for art, fishing for adulation. It was that. It was not good. It was not fun. It was not fun. Now, if you disagree with me, let me know. Like, I didn't like this movie. I didn't like this movie. And if you like this movie, tell me what it is that you liked about it. Enlighten me on how this was a good movie on my terms, like watch wise, like as far as a movie that's fun to watch, Why is this a good movie? I'm not talking about why this movie should get Oscars, why is this fun to watch? Why do you need to watch it? Like, why is it interesting? He had whatever disease he had, but you didn't see him struggle at all. It's like he had an episode. They never explained how he survived so long after he only had the 2-year prognosis. The doctors never talked about it. He never talked about it. The wife never talked about it. I mean, she sort of talked about it at the end. It's like, nigga, I didn't think you was gonna live so long. Thought you was gonna be dead and I'd get another man. But she ain't say that shit. I didn't like this piece of shit movie. And I think it was a piece of shit. And I think that you should not see it, that you should not waste your time just because people give a movie a lot of awards, just because people give a movie a lot of praise, just because people kiss a movie's ass doesn't mean it's a watchable movie, doesn't mean it's a fun experience, doesn't mean it's something that you should spend your time on. There are much better ways to educate yourself about subjects than movies are. Movies have not risen to the level of being education or inspiration. Not yet. They are in some cases, in very rare cases, but they are not yet. So that's not a movie that you have any reason to watch on any level, whether you're watching it for entertainment or whether you're watching it for information. There's just too much content in this world for you to spend time on this piece of shit movie. If you have not seen it, do not see it. You want to know more about Stephen Hawkins? Just type Stephen Hawkins into Google or whatever search engine you prefer. Type it into Yahoo or Bing or whatever the fuck. But don't watch this movie. All right. As always, I'm reading straight off of my notes till I get this shit down cold. I don't give a fuck. My name is The Masked Man. I am Mr. Masked Man on YouTube. Let me know what you thought about the video. I'm confusing myself because I'm reading right off of this shit. Yeah. Could you make it through the whole thing? Yeah, I confused myself. Could you make it through this whole long ass rambling video? Was I right or wrong? Let me know in the comments. Like, dislike, do whatever you want to do. Let me know how you feel. Be true to it. If you disliked it, tell me dislike it. You ain't gotta leave a comment, but I would prefer you did. Help me on my quest to make a living off of YouTube. I've been saying get rich, but I'm really just trying to make a living doing something that I enjoy doing, having conversations. I'm really just trying to have conversations with people. I'm really just trying to make a living off of having conversations is basically what I'm trying to do. I may or may not be successful, but all I can do is put in the work. Let me know of any tips that you can give me on building up my media platform. Any tips or pointers would be greatly appreciated. And again, help me start conversations. I am Mr. Masked Man on YouTube. Do not have a Facebook. Do not have a Twitter. Do not have the money for an internet connection. I will acquire that as well as upgrade this pathetic quality. I'm doing this off of a webcam on a laptop that's about 4 years old. So if the quality isn't very good, and the quality ain't that good, it's a Toshiba laptop. It's kind of old. Alright. Ain't much I can do about it right now. But I'm doing what I can do to bring you the best content that I can bring you, to talk about the things that interest me. I think I covered everything. You gotta bear with me for this unprofessional shit. But I do take this seriously, and I do take you seriously. So for real, say whatever you gotta say. If you made it this far, you got my appreciation. I'm the Masked Man. I am the Masked Man, not Mr. Masked Man. And I will see you in the next video.